matchup over here. So I'm gonna leave you to introduce the players while I actually set up the overlay here for our cast.
All right, so spawning in the east of the map, it is one of the greatest of all times in the Age of Empires 2 community, playing as the French, playing on the blue, it is GL TheViper. His opponent, going to be playing on the red color, spawning in on the southwest of the map. He's going to be playing on the Mongols, and he is ZertoN. ZertoN is an incredibly talented player. My understanding is he's from the Age of Empires online community. So this is one of an interesting game, just simply because we don't actually have a French pick. Now, Lidakor, I'll have to double check with you. Is this a best of 3 series?
It is a best of 3 pick, and there's a French pick here for Viper. So
right. So now, Viper bringing it out in the first game. Dangerous.
Dangerous, but it could give you a nice advantage over here. Now, here's the deal. The Viper is gonna have the trade post so close to his base that trading with that early on is not really going to be a thing, probably not even later into the game. So that's a pretty unfortunate market spawn for him, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it can be a little bit strange with these market spawns and the way that they work, but yeah, like you can see that with the Mongol, like for example for Doubt, look at where his trading post is spawned. His is spawned at a very far away distance from his town center, whereas Viper's is on the other side. Now, obviously, the Mongols can move their town centers, but yeah, just very curious that they're so different. I think if ZertoN had got the opposite spawn, he'd be quite upset with that trading post spawn, but undoubtedly will be quite happy with this one.
He already made a stable. I love how he built it close to the TCs so that he saves villager time, and then he rolls the stable up to the Ovu, and we might see double scouts to try and set Viper's gold mine on fire. It's worth mentioning that this is a decider set, which means that whoever wins this gets into the main event of Genesis to take 1 out of the 8 spots next weekend.
So this is a best of 3. That means that, so the first game, French versus Mongols, whoever wins that game, not going to be able to play the civilization that they win with in that first game in the second game. That might have been a bit confusing. Apologies. But yes, so no, you're not able to repick the same civ if you win with it. But yes, I like to see that we've already got a little bit of Mongol action happening. Did we have any units getting produced out of that stable? Oh, we do. 2 horsemen.
A couple of horsemen
already coming out onto the map. I'm expecting that we'll see them speed boosted, or how would you even say that? Speed boosted across the map with that Khan. It looks like Viper's actually going to spot that one out, though. We just see the scout below going to be shadowing that up. So yeah, just going to be entering into the Mongol base now.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, the key thing with the Mongols early on is that you want to try to deny the gold income of Viper. And if you remember, we casted a Viper set versus, who was it in the second round? I'll have to check. It was Symptom. And it was a very similar game. Symptom was able to deny the gold from Viper so well, and Viper had a tough time winning that game.
Yeah, I think that, you know, one of the things with Mongols, Viper, got to be careful right here. Village is taking a little bit of a hit to the face right there. Actually, you know what? That might have been intentional. Viper probably knew that that he would be okay with that villager, that he wouldn't dive underneath the town center. But I tell you what, it must be relieving playing these games against Mongols and knowing that they're not going to town center rush. For anybody wondering why there's no town center rushing, it's because it's banned from the tournament.
It is. Just imagine both players picking the Mongols, and they just keep chasing each other around.
Yeah.
That would be
quite funny.
Let's say just a disappointment. It would be funny, but I wouldn't call it very competitive, however.
We need to pull out the Benny Hill music, wouldn't we? But Viper doing a nice little job right there of healing up the mining camp. So that was something that we saw in the earlier game with Nan Racing Cat against Don, is that he didn't bring out any villagers to heal that up because he was fearful of losing them. But Viper just came out, did a few little taps on that mining camp and prevented it from going down. But he's got to be careful here because the mining camp is getting quite close to that threshold. Viper moving out 2-3 villagers now, going to be tapping that one away and looking like it's going to heal up. And look how fast it heals up. He just needs to tap for a few seconds. Knight going to be coming out, and the movement speed boost goes down, and everybody gets out safely except for the sheep, not the herdable sheep. Poor little Benny. He's gone down.
Such a good defense here for Viper. He really anticipated this, and his reaction was perfect. Even the poor sheep gets killed here. And now this is gonna be difficult for ZertoN, because last time I checked he was in Dark Age, he's just about to go up to Feudal. But Mongols can have a difficult time against the opponent's knights. You see, Viper has to mix in some horsemen himself because he was off from gold for some time.
Yeah, and a smart move from him to do that. He can just put the horsemen on a different control group and go do some raiding with it. That way, you know, it doesn't really mess up his control groups or anything like that. The Deer Stones from ZertoN here is a curious decision. As we mentioned earlier, an option would have been to go for that trading route, so going up with the, what is it called, the Silver Wing?
Silver Tree.
Wing. The Silver Tree. I was close.
Ooh, that's a nice raid, though, from ZertoN. These are still early horsemen, so they don't do a lot of damage, though, and, well, they seem to perform kind of subpar against Viper's villagers here, let's just say that.
Yeah, I feel like horsemen just overall are quite subpar. I feel like majority of the time when I'm making them, I'm just losing games. And they can be very difficult to deal with. Whereas with knights, I feel like the knight is the Chad, and the horseman is the, well, I'd say the other word, but this is a PG stream, so I'm not going to say it, but he's not the Chad.
Indeed, for now, Viper will be satisfied by denying that gold mine. Could also harass the Ovu over here, as we have ranges coming in for ZertoN. In the long run, he has to play Mangadai, but I feel like Viper knows that, and he's going to start adding archers soon.
Yeah, I think that it's quite important that he begins to add those archers sooner rather than later, because in this matchup, one of the things that can happen is that you can get kited around, and obviously in a game like this, it's important that you play safe rather than not safe. And speaking of safe, it looks like the villagers need to be moving back towards safety. We actually see some of those villagers getting some tags on the horsemen, looking to take them out and saying, hey, you can come in here, but we're going to take you down. But yeah, I do expect we're going to see Viper play this one quite safe. Obviously, this is the final of the bracket. Whoever gets through this gets through to the main event. So they are going to want to do their best. And now we've got ourselves a little bit of a curious situation right here. Viper does manage to realize that his enemy villagers, did he think he could try and sneak this one up on Viper? Is that what happened?
I honestly don't know, because then the villagers started running towards the gold. Maybe ZertoN just didn't know the knights were there, and he was too busy microing his horsemen.
Curious decision-making right there from ZertoN, but undoubtedly, I'm sure there is a will, or a reason, a logic to his thinking, but taking down so many villagers, sitting on 23 villagers now for ZertoN. How many is Viper on? I don't even think he's lost a villager.
29.
29. So
And he's got
really, really good.
He's got a faster working town center as well over here, which is obviously contributing to that villager discrepancy, but Viper didn't lose a single villager yet, whereas his opponent is about to lose a couple more here.
Yeah, Viper doing a great job so far. 4 villagers managing to get inside, and Viper just really cleaning up over here. Does he have the +1 armor upgrade just yet on his knights? Doesn't look like it. Take a look out.
Looks like it's
not
not there. Viper instead is investing into archers, and I like that, because at this point you just want to prepare for the Mangadai of the opponent, but I feel like right now Viper is overestimating the chances of his opponent here, simply because there is absolutely no Mangadai coming out from ZertoN. He has 2 early horsemen, and that's it.
Yeah, it's quite curious, and there's been a significant amount of stone that's actually stacked up for ZertoN. So he actually had 630 stone sitting in the stack before he's gone and used it. So yeah, nothing really out now, but he does have that Uvu out, and Viper picking up another villager. And this is exactly what French do, and they do it so damn well. They come in, they take out a villager or 2, and then they move out. And any of the damage that they took in that time, they're going to just heal it back up. So very curious from ZertoN to see how he's going to be able to react to this. But I will note, he's actually got some pastures up already. So really looking at, you know, you can think of pastures as the Mongol equivalent to farms.
It is actually the Mongol equivalent to farms here, as a knight comes in, finds another villager kill. So really, Viper so far has been very successful killing villas. ZertoN is at 25, and Viper is already at 35. That's almost a 50% advantage for the Snake.
That's huge. That is really, really big. It is impressive to think, okay, ZertoN is a top player. Okay, he is no slouch. But he has lost this many vills already to Viper. It's just wild to me that Viper's able to have such control, such command, and be that far ahead this early in the game.
Is he losing villagers to Viper, or is he losing villagers to the French, though?
Good question. And I think it's a little bit of both. So French obviously incredibly strong at raiding because they get that beautiful charge in. But now we've got ourselves a little bit of a movement speed boost, it looks like it. Mangudai just going to try their best, but Knight's getting in there and getting in quite hard. We see that there's a little sheep getting into the action as well. Obviously not learning the mistakes of his ancestors and trying to get into the battle. Look at that little boy go. But now Knight's going to be running in, looking to potentially make a hit. But getting their jousting lances out, not going to be able to do it. The sheep does survive another day, but Viper just looking so strong right now. Come in from all angles.
Indeed, and now that he has foot archers, he can just pick off the Mangudai from a distance. As a minor notable thing, the description of the herdable sheep says, "You monster," for killing them.
Just you monster. It does too, it does.
Yeah, there's one of those Easter eggs. The other one is the wolf that is a bitey infantry.
Yes, the wolf, yes. Quite notoriously bitey. Does the boar have any interesting tags? I'm curious. But now we've got more archers running around. But this is the difficult thing right here is that ZertoN's only real, the only real strength that he's got here is running away. That's it. Like, all he can do is run away from his enemy. And the archers obviously outrange the Mangudai. The knights are what he can outrun. So he just really needs to look to potentially build up those massive of Mangudais and then begin to run them around the map. And ideally, he wants to begin doing that, but he can't do it at the moment because Viper's in his face. And takes out another sheep. That's the second one for the game. Why does it have a trade icon on there? I would like to trade my sheep for an unknown activation. Very curious UI interactions. It can also stand ground, the sheep carcass. Interesting to know, but more villagers now going to be going down. Viper just looking so good.
He is looking so good. Like, ZertoN is trying to turtle this out for Castle Age, because one thing that he gets in Castle Age is the improved attack upgrade on his Mangudai, and that's actually going to be pretty massive in Castle Age. That pretty much means he can eat the armor of knights, and this is probably the counterattack he needs. He's picking off a lot of reinforcements here.
Yeah, this is exactly what he needs. He needs to just run up this reinforcement line, so he's not doing it right now. But yeah, running up that reinforcements line is really going to help him out. Knights at the same time going to force those gold miners to idle out. Viper bringing in some archers and saying, hey, get off my reinforcements right now. Potentially one villager going to be going down, and ZertoN sitting on 30 villagers, so making his way back up into the 30s, but still having some troubling times. How many villagers is Viper on at the moment? Sitting on, let's take a look.
46.
Viper on 46, so a 50%, more than a 50% advantage for Viper at the moment. He's looking very strong. No second town center out from him. That is just all French bonuses, baby.
And I love how Viper has a scout hidden here in this stout forest. Just look at the vision that he has. The moment ZertoN moves to these huntables, he can see that. He sees half of ZertoN's base with that single scout.
Viper doing a great job of just controlling his enemy, but at the same time, ZertoN still, holding it together, doing his best. Viper now with the blacksmith going to be getting those technologies in him. But look at all these pastures that ZertoN's beginning to build up, and this is the equivalent of the biggest Mongol turtle you've ever seen. There's a lot of pastures.
There is, and ZertoN's food count is starting to look good. The problem is the gold. That gold mine is just dangerously exposed. And if he gets enough gold, he could try getting to Castle Age. But I feel like Viper will be able to match his Castle Age time simply because Viper's eco is untouched.
Yeah, I've got to agree with it. It's definitely the fact that Viper's just going to be able to maintain that edge as he goes up to the next stage. I'm really curious to know what is the way that ZertoN actually gets back into this. Because I don't think in this matchup that mass knights is actually going to be effective against the Mangudai. No. Because the Mangudai are just going to be able to run away across the duration of the map, or the range of the map. Going to potentially look at penetrating through to Viper's base as well, take out villagers. He's got a lot of upgrades that he can potentially get as well, but looking close to that third age.
Exactly. I feel like the difference maker for the Mongols is Castle Age, because Sihabo Limbs is actually an extremely good upgrade. +2 damage for the Mangudai and the Khan. That adds on top of the blacksmith upgrades is massive. Just helps so much to pierce the armor of those heavy units. And then Viper's army with the archers is kind of slow moving, so you gotta leverage the mobility of the Mangudai, as it looks like the step redoubt will be the building for ZertoN.
Alright, now going to be going up with the guild hall, so to be expected. Normally if you see one base, you can expect the guild hall going to be going down. Guild hall definitely a favorite. I think we've only seen the guild hall today, no Royal Institute coming out for any players just yet. But ZertoN going to be clicking up as well, I suspect. I see his resources are quite low and going up with the step redoubt.
There is a chance for ZertoN to pick off some vills here, something that he desperately needs. He is currently up against 52 villagers with only 36 of his, so he needs to pick off a couple of vills. Viper's Knights are nowhere to be found though, so this is the moment for ZertoN to leverage that mobility advantage.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Just give me a moment. I'm just going to take care of something. You carry on casting. I've got some timing out to do.
Oh no, the copy pastas.
Don't worry, they're going to meet their end.
Oh boy. Anyways, poor Wolf went down. You see, Viper is chasing down those Mangadai right now, and ZertoN is just trying to avoid any kind of confrontation over there. Now that we are in Castle Age, we are first getting a defense upgrade for ZertoN. So he's so much afraid of those archers that he's first getting a defense upgrade. It looks like Viper lost track of that army. He's trying to check that the stealth forest, but he cannot find the Mangadai anywhere. And I feel like ZertoN is through the worst. Drongo is very busy banning people.
Sorry. Yeah, I've sorted it out. It is all good. So let's talk a little bit about this step redoubt that's going up at the moment. This, in my opinion, is one of the stronger landmarks in the game. So it creates gold out of thin air. You can see all those villagers dropping off that 15 gold right there. So it's going to sap or just essentially give you an extra 5 gold every time you're dropping off 10 gold.
What I love about this landmark is that it's one thing that you're getting it right now, but even if this gold mine runs out, you can just reposition this, unlike landmarks of other civilizations. So this landmark will be useful for the entire game. No matter what happens, you will get the bonus of this one, compared to, let's say, the Aachen Chapel, which has a limited radius, and once your eco expands beyond that, you won't be able to get that bonus. That's a nice raid coming in from ZertoN, though.
Yeah, looking pretty decent, and now we see he's beginning to add lances as well. The archer mass is beginning to build for Viper at this point, so plenty of archers coming out for him. So the lances are exactly what he needs to counter it. I'm curious exactly how ZertoN is going to be doing. I suspect, and this is my suspicion, ZertoN's going to have a lot of experience in this matchup just based on his latter games. Okay, probably plays a lot of Mongols, and so he's going to be very familiar with it. I don't think Viper's going to have a whole lot of experience playing into Mongols as French. At least nowhere near as much as ZertoN has against as playing as the Mongols. So I feel like when it comes this game, as the game continues moving forward, ZertoN is going to continue to get that advantage as a civilization that gets picked less. Even though it does get picked quite frequently, it's less than the French counterparts. So I'm curious to see what kind of composition he looks to go for here. Whether he looks to just go full Mangadai as well as Lancers. What are your thoughts on the Mongol composition?
I think it has to be a mix of Lancers and Mangadai, because you see, the Mangadai deal well against the French Knights, and you can't just go for Lancers because eventually the French cavalry will be better. But the Lancers will be able to annihilate Viper's archers, and you see, Viper is forced to retreat here because he simply doesn't have the troops to fight the army of the opponent right now. He's got Veteran Royal Knight in, and he still has the better eco, and that's something that we shouldn't forget.
Yeah, that's a great point. Are we able to check on Viper's guild hall and see what resource it's currently set to? I'm very curious as to whether he's gone for gold, whether he's gone for stone, or what it is exactly he's looking to secure with his guild hall. The second TC going to get dropped down from Viper here as well.
Viper's going
guild
on
hall
food.
Is on food.
He's very
this
low
is
on
something
food.
very curious I've noticed, that a lot of players seem to be keeping it on food instead of changing it over to the more precious resources. And Hera does the same thing. He keeps it on food. So there must be a secret to it that I've just missed out on. But now it looks like, do we have a third town center being added at the north as well here for Viper?
Yep, he's booming on free. So
yeah,
his opponent is going to remain on one, Viper is booming on free. So soon, ZertoN's going to have to start punishing that boom. So I think the concept behind having the guild hall on food is that in order to get food now, you have to invest into farms, and that has sort of a time until it pays off. Whereas, let's say, going for gold or wood, you just pay the villager's price and it starts paying it off immediately. You don't have to sort of pay for the price of the farm as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. At least in the early game. Once it gets to the late game, I think my largest click with that wonder was 11,000 gold. I forgot about that landmark, and Yeah, 11,000 gold later, I was very happy, Larry.
Yeah, 11,000 gold is nice. So the way that the guild hold works is that it's generating you resources, but it's not giving it to your resource bank immediately. Instead, it's giving it to storage. And the more you have in the storage, the more resources they generate. So the players are trying to withdraw it as late as possible because it's just going to be an incremental bonus. You see, if Viper just keeps it here for 15 minutes, he's gonna have like 10,000 food in this building.
Yes, it is going to go up very, very quickly. But Viper now beginning to add in Arbalète as well. We are seeing with his Archer mass, he's got all of them out in a beautiful line formation as they begin to cross their way towards the sacred site. So Archers mixed in with some Arbalète. So exactly what he needs to be focusing down. So ideally, he wants the Archers to be shooting the Magadai. He wants the Arbalète to be shooting the Lancers. And there's a decent mass of Lancers out right now for ZertoN. This is a concerning amount of Lancers. And actually, we see ZertoN managing to hold up on score despite being down so many villagers. Looks like Lancers are going to be moving in, taking out a couple Knights. More Knights down towards the south, and ZertoN might be looking at getting cleaned up. We see a movement speed arrow getting fired off. The Khan does fall down, and the Lancers look to make their way out with the Magadai. Springled now coming out for Viper as well. How are you feeling about his composition as he enters into the mid game?
Viper's composition looks decent, but I think the bigger deal is the army. Look at that flood of units. Right now it's 58 army for Viper, and ZertoN is at 23 overall, 69 population, nice. Whereas
Nice.
Viper is at 152.
Yes. It's a concerning amount of units coming out now for Viper. Now, keep in mind, he's on 3 TC as well. So the longer the game goes on, he's going to be doing even better compared to ZertoN. But ZertoN sitting on that 1 TC, he's going to have the more immediate impact. The fact that Viper is pushing out despite being on those 3 TCs is a little bit concerning to me. He may look to get overextended. Now that we see those Springalds continuing to trickle down the map, he's got 2 of them out. I'm expecting that we're probably going to see multiple Springalds coming out. These guys are a little bit expensive, but for Siege, they are quite cheap as well.
Indeed. The problem here, as I said for ZertoN, is that he's just so much behind in population, he can't take a direct fight, and at this pace, Viper is just gonna steamroll his base with a superior army. Springalds with their superior range, they can start taking on the towers, and Viper is even going for a keep, which will prevent an OVU being built from here, by the way.
Yes, it will, but a little bit of a flank coming around the back from ZertoN. Viper may not realize it as he enters somewhat the stealth forest, but now looking to crush the archers from his enemy. Viper a bit out of position right now as the Lancers get on top. Not a lot of Arbalète in here either, so these Lancers are going to be having a pretty big field day on these archers. And Viper doing his best to try and focus them down, but it looks like he's actually managing to hold pretty decently. There's no Khan here to buff up these boys, but unfortunately, it looks like ZertoN's going to have to walk away with his tail between his legs, and this fort, or rather this castle, this keep, is going to stay down.
Indeed. There was, I think, just enough crossbowmen or Arbalète to take down the Lancers, and then the Magadai just got picked apart by the archers. And now you see the Springalds already taking down the towers over here. It takes quite a lot of time to take down buildings with Springalds, so Viper might need something else. But at this pace, I feel like the next step for him is a Trebuchet.
Yeah, I think you might be right. A Trebuchet is definitely the right play. When it comes to Siege, you can use a Mangonel, you can use a Trebuchet, you can use a Ram. But up against these Mongols, I definitely think a Trebuchet is going to be the right play, especially considering he's got a nice safe castle here already there that's going to keep that safe. I'm expecting that he's probably going to be getting the Burning Oil upgrade as well. That upgrade is obviously a very strong upgrade. We did see that in the Don Artie game versus Doubt a little bit earlier. So it is, yeah, it is a curious position. Viper gonna continue moving out across the map now. Still looking pretty decent on score, so pulling up about 1,300 points right now, Viper is. Arbalète gonna continue pushing up towards the north. We see those Mongol horsemen moving as fast as they can. Got the Khan there with them, and gonna be buffing up the movement speed in the event they get into a little bit of a difficult spot. For anybody wondering, this is a best of 3 that is happening right now, so even in the event that Viper wins this first game or ZertoN wins this first game, we will be heading into a second game and potentially a third game depending on the victor of that second game. Now Viper looking to close in the gap right now. ZertoN running through the base, potentially picking up villagers as he does it. And we see the Trebuchet now going to get sieged down a little bit, taking down 104 damage on that, and more Lancers now moving over. Arbaletier are going to be here looking to pick up these units, and managing to do that. We see them dealing damage, taking out 2 of those Knights. One of the Lancers, rather, gets away, and Viper just chasing away the Magadai down towards the south. How do you think he's doing at the moment, Lidakor?
Viper, absolutely amazing. I mean, he's almost pop-capped with a pretty sizable army. ZertoN is at 85 population with 56 vills. He's got a monastery, somewhat curious, and I see Springolds. It's just a wild guess, but maybe ZertoN might be hoping that he can somehow get a conversion in. That seems quite unlikely, but currently just looking at the population, this is a Viper game, and remember what I said about the guild hall. Viper is still banking up resources. The moment Viper taps this button, he will have 3,000 food added to his total.
Yeah, that's actually very impressive, isn't it? When you think about it, if he's able to gather up just 1,200 stone, he's going to be able to click up to Imperial very easily, very affordably as well. But now we see the Arbaletier sitting on the back line, using the archers to actually tank for them. And Arbaletier dropping down their Pavis. Their shield is going to protect them. Do a little click on those Arbaletier and just see what their stats are right now. 7 melee armor, 5 ranged armor for these guys. These guys are absolute tanks. They're going to be fine. Even though these units get up in their face, Viper is going to stand tall. He's going to stand strong. His chin is up right now, and he is looking like an absolute beast as he holds his ground, and he wins the fight, forcing ZertoN back once again.
I feel like you just can't take that fight against those Arbaletier, because once you deploy the Pavise, they're pretty much invincible to Arrow Fire, and once you get the Gambeson's unique upgrade, which is, I think, one of the best unique upgrades in the game, you will get an insane amount of melee armor on them. It's a very cheap upgrade as well. It's something like 250 gold, 125 wood or so in Castle Age.
One of the things to note, okay, and I will just say this, okay, a lot of civilizations have got unique units that offer a double-edged sword, essentially. So, say for example, the Chinese unique archer, the Chokunu, is an archer that is more expensive. It fires. It does less damage, but it does more bolts. So there's a trade-off there. But with the unique French units, both the unique knight, the unique crossbow, and the unique bombard, all of them have no negatives about them. They are all just adding value to them. And it's really part of the reason why they are so strong.
And that's just the army part, because French economy is also, I would say, top 3. Faster working town centers, cheaper drop-off buildings, cheaper technologies as well, if I'm not mistaken, so all of that. And the guild hall, which will become insane in the long range. See, Viper already has 4.1k food banked up in that.
Yeah, I wonder if he's forgotten about that. You can never really know whether someone's forgotten about it or whether they're just biding their time. So it could be that.
Viper's up to Imperial. I feel like...
Oh yeah, this is big.
I feel like even if Viper knows about it, he just wants to sit back and wait. I mean, he's not in the immediate need of resources. Might as well just leave it out there as long as possible. And now that it's Imperial Age, Viper can get the Roller Shutter triggers for his Springolds, which gives him +2 range over the opponent's Springolds, and would allow him to take down the Treb as well.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. We do have the traction Treb. But Viper in a bit of a difficult spot down towards the south of the map as he begins to lose Arbaletier. They get chased away by all these Lancers, but now Villager's going to get chased away. Viper with a nice little forward position here, not really taking advantage of the defensive keep bonus that the French do have access to. For anybody wondering, the French keep provides a nice little influence bonus, which increases or rather decreases the cost of units in the archery range and the stable. So that's a 20% that can be upgraded to 30%. ZertoN actually looking pretty decent now as he runs across the map. Going to be taking out Viper villagers. Let's take a look and see what his villager count is at the moment.
Viper
ZertoN on 60.
Viper's at still 141.
141.
I feel like
just a casual 81 difference.
I feel like Viper is replenishing the villagers faster than ZertoN can kill them, and ZertoN was 1 TC for the whole game, so it's a very, very slow process for him to build up his villager numbers, even if he isn't getting raided, which wasn't the case.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a curious spot. Viper now going to be moving out with those Springolds, firing them at the TC rather than at the Trebuchet. Trebuchet going to be slowly working its magic, but now we've got a Royal Culverin out as well for Viper. Now the trick to the Royal Culverin is you want to get villagers right next to it and you want to heal that bad boy up. He's got 400 HP. He could survive a lot of damage, and with 8 or 9 villagers next to him, it can become practically invincible. You now see he's one-shotting out those Springolds, He does plenty of damage, so going to be in a great spot there for him.
Yeah, and now we're looking at Elite Royal Knight, still without biology, but I think it's just a matter of time right now. And, I mean, at this point, if Viper brings in a Bombard as well, he will just melt that DC. He's like steady 180 population, whereas ZertoN is stuck at 100 and Castle Age.
Yeah, Viper definitely tearing ZertoN apart at this point in time. It definitely looks like it might be a tough game for ZertoN. I guess the question is, what's the way that he puts the nail in the coffin? Because at the moment, he's sort of being run around the map, and he just needs to clinch the victory. So does he consider getting that Bombard in? Is that going to be the best choice for him?
Or potentially just go 4 Knights. Like, at this point, with the defense upgrade for Imperial Age, biology, those Mangudai won't perform really well against the Royal Knights, and he just needs to brute force run into the TC range. If he's got like 20 Knights, he can just steamroll this. The town center is actually on fire, as it's being tagged up to completely relocate. Did it get hit by a stone as it was moving?
I think so. Was that a tracking stone right there? Interestingly, it looked like the town center placement got cancelled by the sheep that were following it. I'm not sure if you spotted that. But
it's possible.
The sheep are following the town center, and take a look. When he tries to put the town center down, I think it just doesn't get placed.
Look at this. Viper actually finds this gold mine here, and I would expect about 5 Knights to come in. Look at that reaction from Viper.
Yeah,
instantly, as he sees the villagers, he's gonna move in, and there's just nowhere to go for ZertoN right now. He's losing the villagers, the buildings, faster than he can rebuild them.
Yeah, it's not pretty right now for ZertoN. He's not feeling good. Did he manage to get his town center down up towards that gold mine or not? He did manage to get it down. He's got to heal that bad boy up because it is slowly trickling out. We see a couple of villagers now moving over to heal it up because he realizes units are imminently coming in.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult now for ZertoN. Trying to be positive here, but I don't think that he stands a chance. He's at like 80 population, and he's been just dropping pop, whereas Viper... Like, he could even delete 20 villagers and just replace them with army and snowball the game.
Yeah. Can we check his guild hall? Has he clicked on the guild hall just yet?
Nope, he didn't.
No, he hasn't. Oh, and the good game gets called and Viper didn't click on the guild hall. 6,700 food in the bank right there as Viper wins the first game in the series.
Indeed. What a game it was. I'm not gonna lie. Viper had a massive advantage beyond Castle Age simply because his opponent was never able to move out of its base, basically.
I'm still just in awe at that. The guild hall, he was going for the world record with that thing. 7,000 food stocked up. Jeez Louise.
I feel like it's just not needed for him, right? Because he was already ahead. Why pull out the resources now, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think one of my favorite things to do with that is actually put it on stone. And then you can pull out your stone when you hit 800 stone, and then that way you can drop down a castle with it. Or you can look to save it up a little bit later. But yeah, he didn't collect his resources, so he'll save it for next game. Yes,
we'll jump into the next game in a matter of moments, as I will take a short break, so Aussie can entertain you for a couple of moments.
Sounds good to me. All right, fellas, it's back to me and you. Some quick guesses. What do you guys think the matchup is going to be for the next game? Okay, now keep in mind, I think the map that they're going to be playing on is Hill and Dale. Okay, now Viper can't play the French, but ZertoN can still play the Mongols. So what do you think we're going to see out of Viper? I'm seeing a lot of Russes in the chat. I'm seeing Delhi versus English, very interesting. More Frenches, French versus English. Viper Abbasid. Viper is Rus for sure. Okay, interesting. Viper is English or Rus for sure. Abbasid versus French. Some interesting things in here. Delhi Mirror, I like that Flappy 12. Give that man a VIP with cojones like that. Delhi versus Chinese. Hey, that's my kind of thinking, fellas. That's what I want to see some Chinese. If we get to see some Chinese today, I'm going to be super duper happy, man. I don't know why. I just like them. I got an affinity for them. What can you say? The Viper goes Delhi for sure. China v China. All right. Well, I'm very pleased to tell you guys that the matchup is going to be ZertoN playing the French and Viper who spawns in on the east of the map playing the Mongols. It is, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a mirror, but it is a mirror of the first game. So it's not a mirror of the civilizations that are being played right now, but rather the civilizations in the first game. Surprise! And we are, of course, on the Hill and Dale map, which, of course, you're unable to wall if you're Mongols. So a little bit of a difficult spot for him. But there are markets in the middle that he's going to be able to trade with if he does opt for that play style. Dropping down an Uvu in the early game. How do you feel about this one, Lidakor?
Oh, it's difficult to say here, since I don't think that this map is actually suitable for Mongols. On the other hand, Viper picked his civilization knowing what the map is. So he knows exactly that this is the map, and he's actually aggroing those wolves. I'm not sure if this is deliberate or so, but...
it's uncontrolled. It's a forced aggro. Yep. The Mongol Khan just... he likes to fight.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps in case you want to send 4 of the villagers out, or, as you said, you want to trade. And that might actually be the game plan of Viper, because the best way to play this one for ZertoN could potentially be to just wall himself and leverage the French economy play late game. But if ZertoN surrenders the entire map control by just walling, Viper can go for the silver tree and trade with either of these trade posts.
Yeah, I would say that with regard to these trade posts, they're not the most optimal trade posts. So ideally, you want to have a trade post that's, somewhere on the edge of the map. It's kind of safe, something that's got a pretty good distance with it. But unfortunately, these guys are smack bang in the middle of the map. So it means that if ZertoN's able to move out with any sort of pressure, any kind of early Royal Knight pressure, he's going to be able to find traders very easily.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things is that if ZertoN wins this game, that would mean that both players have won with French, and there is no way we would see French in a decider game.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, there will be no French in the deciding game. It could be a Mongol mirror in the deciding game, though.
If there's a decider game, right? Because we don't know.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Yes, you're 100% right. We do not know, but looks like he might find the triple sheep at the north of the map up there. But Viper now going to be aggroing up that wolf as well. And it's scouting out now. ZertoN doing a little bit of scouting of his enemy. Let's take a look at ZertoN's base. He's very close to aging up. I'm assuming on a map like this, he's going to be opening up with the School of Cavalry. I can't imagine that you would get anything other than that here. So I'll expect that gets dropped down within the next 30 seconds. Where is it coming in? Where is it? I can smell it.
I feel like you want to place it on the hunt so you can sort of defend that area. But it looks like ZertoN thinks otherwise. And he's coming for the one at the back. So the good thing for him is that he can still wall himself and just boom. But if he mixes in some knights, he can still harass Viper because Viper simply can't wall.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Viper's going to have a tough time on this map. He's going to be exposed. His enemy not so exposed. I wouldn't be surprised to see ZertoN just try and go full knights, but Viper can obviously respond to that just by going Magadai. But obviously, he's got to be careful with how he plays it. Now, Viper's a pretty boomy character as well. Similar to his, I was going to say, similar to his cousin, Doubt, but his teammate, Doubt, who is the king of the boom. Viper does like to get down those extra TCs.
Indeed. Speaking of the extra TCs for Mongols, the Mongols don't need to mine stone for that. Their town centers only cost wood. It's a bigger wood cost, but they don't need to spend the stone they get from the Ovus on town center.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, what is it, 900 wood that it works out to be?
Yep, that's 900. We'll see if Viper goes for that. Looks like he is about to age up, and that's deer stones.
Deer stones, so no trade today.
Yeah, I feel like he's afraid of the early knights, just trading it. But I'm not 100% sure what Viper is planning to do in this game here. Aside from maybe a second town center, because he seemed to be pretty heavy on the wood, and it looks like it's going to be spearmen only.
Yeah, it's very curious that he's chosen this map, or rather, chosen this civ on this map. I wonder exactly what he's thinking now. He's probably got something in mind. Viper is the kind of guy to prepare for these sort of series, and he knows the maps and what they're going to be. So he's going to be thinking, okay, well, let's try this, and we'll use this here. Undoubtedly, he's prepared with his team plenty in this sort of matchup as well. So I'm curious to know exactly what he's got in mind for us, but it already looks like we've got a little bit of a gold stack beginning to build for Viper. And are we potentially going to see a second TC drop down from him? He's beginning to hit close to 400 wood now.
Yeah, it's possible that he wants to play second TC and just try to go Spearman defense and boom. Now, his opponent is already making an archer range, so you see ZertoN is expecting the Spearman. He may have even seen the barracks. We don't know that for sure because, well, this is how spectating looks like from that POV. But it's possible that he saw the barracks, so that's the reason why he's adding archers. And the thing for Viper is that he will need defensive towers on the gold and potentially the hunt, because otherwise the archers will just deny that.
Yeah, we now see a unit beginning to make its way across the map from ZertoN. Is that a scout that we've got, or a knight? It is indeed a knight, a trusty royal knight from the French army.
Indeed. And he's taking a scenic route to the right side, so the raid will actually happen on this gold. This is pretty well defended. The Viper's got quite a lot of spears out. No hardened upgrade on them just yet.
Yeah, and we continue to see Viper climbing towards that wood count. We see he's up to 600 wood now. And a couple of wolves that Viper lured earlier are now beginning to attack the Knight of ZertoN. So looking to get a bit of damage out onto him, but now in the middle of the map, it looks like multiple units are under attack. Viper doing a great job of repelling that. Mongol Khan going to be catching that one as well. So let's take a look at the front of Viper's base. Viper has not a lot of spears out at the front of his base, but he is getting those double spear production that he's got with the barracks on the Uvu. And now going to be looking to drop down that second town center as he gets very close to that 900 wood mark. He's sitting up on 800 at the moment, and geez, it takes a while to get these this wood town for the town center out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's actually easier to just mine the stone as a different civilization and drop a TC like that. So, while it seems like, you know, Mongols, of course they can't use their stone, and otherwise it would be very, very powerful, as the Khan might go down. But it might seem like, okay, it's just wood, but that's a lot of wood that you need to spend on a second town center, as Viper is going for the one on the hunt and the gold.
Yeah, so doing a pretty decent job now. Going to be able to chase him away now. Look how fast these spearmen run in. 1.91 movement speed. They are coming with absolute force. Watch out. But it looks like he's going to be able to take it away. These guys did have the Yam network buff as well as the Khan buff. So those guys were really having a bit of a race right there. Now Blacksmith going to get dropped down for ZertoN as well. So undoubtedly looking for those upgrades in the early to mid-feudal age. Still sitting on 1 TC for the moment though. Yet to drop down a second TC, and on a map like this, that is kind of rare. On a map like this, you would expect that players would look to add a second TC sooner rather than later.
Looks like ZertoN won't engage those two spearmen that now have the hardened upgrade. As you said, with the Yum speed era plus the Mongol Khan bonus as well, they're actually moving faster than knights.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild how fast they end up going. When you start combining those bonuses. But now, one villager going to be going down. Viper getting the double charge onto that and taking it out. Keep in mind, it does take 3 hits with these knights if it's only 1 knight. But if it's 2 knights, they both get charges, then it's going to one-shot the villager. So it's very important to have that 2 knight bonus. But now Viper losing his Khan. The Khan was killed in a terrible accident. A horse riding accident, it seems.
Indeed, and now the Ovu is actually under siege, which is a pretty big problem for Viper. I'm not gonna lie, his map is quite unfortunate with that front stone. That's something that hurts the Mongols really badly. And he simply can't fight this, because there's archers out here that will just pick off his spearmen.
And that's exactly it. For the French composition, in the early game, going these archers plus knights, that's what makes it so strong and so difficult to deal with. Because these knights just trade very effectively, so you have this great window in the early game where you can trade out, but then they begin to heal up as well, throw in some archers behind them, and you can't really touch them. So very nice to see from ZertoN at this early stage in the game. Going to be lighting this Uvu up and taking it down. No more stone for the Viper.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. And without stone, you won't have the double training ability either, so that's something that's worth pointing out. I think, as you mentioned, the self-healing ability of the French Royal Knights in Feudal Age is probably the biggest deal in terms of military. So that I would love to see being moved to Castle Age.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a reasonable balance approach, because what we do see is that you'll have one knight that comes in, it manages to get a lot of damage in, but it takes a lot of damage. It survives with low HP, and then it gets out, and then once Chivalry comes in, it's back up to full HP within 3 minutes. So it's definitely one of those things that continue to build up as well for the French, because you know, once it starts getting to those fights in the mid-feudal age, and they've still got all of their knights. They never lost a knight because they all healed up to full HP. And speaking of knights, in they come around the Gur, looking to pick up a couple of villages, but I don't actually think they picked up any of them. We've got to click on Viper's villages. Do they have 75 HP on them now? Has he got that textile upgrade in?
Yes, he has it.
Yes, he does. No wonder those villagers are still surviving. Got an outpost here as well. Going to be moving underneath the town center. A little bit dangerous. If those villagers get inside the town center, you're going to have a whole bunch of problems as the arrows come out. New Khan rises just in time to defend the base. And Viper losing a couple villagers, gathering food right out the front of his base. Those archers just teeing away on them. But now more knights going to be in, and movement speed bonus gets laid down on the ground.
I think he wanted to jump on the knights.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Viper is holding this one for the time being, but it's a difficult hold. He's at 39 avails. ZertoN is at 40, so as things stand...
Not too bad.
Yeah, it reminds me of the second round game of Viper, where it was like, he seemed like he was about to die, and then he just somehow turtled this out, because part of the economy here on the right side for him is untouched, and his opponent is still on 1 TC.
Yeah, that's just it. And I think as long as he keeps ZertoN in the second age, he's going to be okay. Because once ZertoN's going to have a significant power spike once he reaches that third age. That's where it's going to get very difficult for him. Primarily because he's going to have an improved bonus, so that villager bonus jumps from 15% up to 20%, so you're even cranking out more villagers, and also you get access to those extra big upgrades for the Royal Knight, but no chivalry bonus just yet for ZertoN. So maybe he's just said, you know what, it's overpowered, I'm not going to use it. I like that. I like that, ZertoN.
Or he's just saying, okay, I got archers here, and maybe he doesn't want to invest his gold into chivalry right now. I'm not 100% sure. He could definitely get it. Looks like we'll just have an archer war for the time being. This is a good fight for ZertoN.
Yeah, a little bit of missed micro right here from Viper, losing a couple of spears before they really get into a position to be able to take out any potential knights. But Viper doing a great job of just falling back. And one of the things I mentioned in the earlier matchup is that archers against French as the Mongols are actually quite decent because you can use your speed buffs. He's got the YAM network that he's on. If you click on one of those archers right now, you're going to see it's got a significant speed bonus compared to its enemy, 1.44 tiles versus the 1.25 of the French archers. So it's really important to consider when you're pushing in underneath a Mongol player that those archers, they might look like they're in that position, but they are just a very small click away from sprinting away at top speed. And keep in mind, that's not even including the Khan bonus.
And it looks like Viper is just pumping out double archers, double spearmen. The thing is that the double spearman archer composition doesn't consume a lot of stone, so you can use double training all day and just go for a full trash army over here. And you see, ZertoN might feel the blood in the water here as he's starting to wall himself up.
Yeah, I think this is a wise choice from him. Walling on this map, it doesn't cost a lot of wood, and it really guarantees you quite a lot of safety. Speaking of safety, Viper in a bit of a difficult spot as another villager does go down over to ZertoN's radar, up towards the north of his base. But Viper in a decent spot here. He does have that second TC up. Let's take a look at the villager count for Viper at this point.
He's at
Sitting
48
villages.
And ZertoN is at 48 as well. It's dead even.
Yeah, so look, anytime you're keeping up with the French is a good time. Let's just say that much. And speaking of the French, going up with the Guild Hall to the next age. So this is another economic landmark. Viper yet to really think about aging up, but is starting to stockpile resources. So he's about halfway on the food, about 75% on the gold. So definitely thinking about it. Does Viper have many pastures? I'm curious.
No. In fact, he has one only. He has been consuming hunt for most of the time, and he's using the berries as well. But that's gonna be a problem for him, because he's gonna have to make a difficult transition to pasture. It's a pretty big investment early on.
Yeah, it is something that does cost quite a lot, but I think he had a couple more pastures down towards that second TC. I wouldn't be surprised to see him really start to go crazy with pastures. So yeah, 3 pastures there as well, but I wouldn't really be surprised to just see him, now that he's got the 2 TCs going, once he hits the third age, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe even 11 or 12 pastures coming out for him. I think there's quite a nice upgrade that you can get at the Gur as well, which reduces the training time on the pastures and their sheep. Where is it? Oh, it looks like you might have already got it. It reduces the training time by 30 seconds, I think it is.
It's possible. By default, it's 2 minutes. And it looks like it's going to be a step right up for Viper. I love how he's dropping a tower down south, just so that he has some vision around these crossings, so he knows exactly when raids are coming in. His opponent is up to cast stage a little faster, as we are seeing some Arbaletria being mixed in here from ZertoN.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the right choice as well. This is going to work pretty decently. These units are very strong, especially against the low damage composition that Viper's got right now. So it's important to consider that with Viper's army, it is low DPS. So these guys are doing 6 damage and doing 9 damage. And with Arbaletria, they have access to that all-important Pavis shield. They also have access to an upgrade. I can't remember the name of it right now, but Lidakor, I'm sure you remember.
Gambesons is...
Gambesons. There you go. I was scared for a second. I'm like, no, Lidakor has forgotten as well. Gambesons, which increases the melee armor that they've got. And then on top of that, then they get the Pavis shield, which increases the ranged armor that they've got. So these guys are going to be absolutely, destruction once they get in. But now, ZertoN going to be pushing in. How do you feel about this fight, Lidakor?
It's Castle Age units versus Field Age units, so that seems reasonable, but Viper's numbers seem to be bigger as he's popping the defense arrow.
Yeah, and probably the correct choice right here, because defense arrow is going to be able to sort of hold for this short amount of time. And look how quickly those spears run in over from the right-hand side. Very easily able to clean up those knights, force them to get out. And Viper knows what his target is here. You see he's not focusing down the knights with his archers. He's focusing down the enemy archers with his own archers, trying to get as much damage on there as he can, continuing to chase them out of the Mongol territory and saving the day one more time.
Yeah, I heard French are OP. How are they not winning yet?
Well, they didn't make enough villages, you see. On a map like this especially, you want to be getting down that second town center extra quick. So I'm very curious to know why ZertoN didn't go for that second town center. But take a look at the scores. Now, keep in mind, Mongol score is normally a little bit higher than normal. And you can't really rely on it, but pulling ahead by about 800 points right now, Viper is.
You can't really rely on it.
I got it. You're so bad, Lidakor. Lidakor, you're making so many dad jokes. You got me starting to wonder. Are you a father by any chance?
Yeah. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Like, okay, that explains it. You at university, I think when you become a dad, the first class is like how to change a diaper. The second class is how to tell a dad joke. And you've obviously taken that. But pretty damn decent job right here of Viper of managing to hold this. Despite the Khan.
Looks like a Viper indeed is slowly expanding his base, and when he does that, he's gonna have the Yam aura around these. So he's slowly expanding his sphere of influence, as it looks like he's going to spot knights and the spearmen come in. The Yam speed helps so much here because Viper's reactions are just blazing fast with the spearmen moving at 1.8 tiles.
Yeah, they really do help, doesn't it? Like, you can just see the way that he reacts is just massively faster as a result. And catching a couple knights in here, I don't think ZertoN would be too happy with that. We now see Viper's got his upgrades through as well. Those veteran archers, they've got the nice little upgraded bows, the little helmet on the head, but we can still tell them apart from their English, or rather their French counterparts on the opposite side of the field. And now across the map, it looks like ZertoN's beginning to move out of his base as well. Potentially going to see that Khan going down. Khan looking like it's going to go... Oh my lord, it managed to survive with just an inch of health left. And now look at those, look how quick those spears move up to the front line. Oh my lord, they go quickly when they get that dive going. It is absolute insanity. But plenty of units now. How do you think Viper's doing in this fight?
I think he's doing well. You see now, he's scaring away the French, which is already an accomplishment. And the big thing is that he's got time to mass his army. That's the problem playing against the French. That you just lose your army so fast to those knights and you never have the time to mass them. And Viper actually buys himself some time to get that up.
Yeah. I'm curious, what is this outpost up here doing? Is he just getting a line of sight? Is that all he's trying to do?
I think it's just vision for now. Potentially securing a gold mine later on. But that's a risky thing to do against the Mongols because they can set it on fire.
Viper, wake up, wake up. All right, he's woken up. Spears were out of position, and it looks like a couple of units managed to be... But now, oh no, Viper's in a terrible spot. Not a lot of spears right here, and some beautiful micro from ZertoN as he begins to move around the south and around the north of his units and begins a circling maneuver in closing on those, and we can just see the significant mass now, rather, for ZertoN as he begins to clean up this mess that Viper has created. A nice little bit of a bait. You know, I asked what was the purpose of this watchtower? You said line of sight, but it might have been bait. Was that bait?
I'm not so sure, honestly. I feel like it was just a bit of an overextension from Viper. And you see, the whole concept for Viper was that he's got a lot of mobility with the Spearman, using the Yum speed. So he can just run away from archers early on. Still, he has a pretty sizable army, and he's holding this hill for the time being. But I think ZertoN is taking over in terms of army quality now.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. Perhaps Viper's mistake was leaving his Yam network. It's so important that he stays within that. As a result of leaving it, he's just going to be losing that extra maneuverability. And now Viper in a difficult spot as he attempts to escape. More crossbows actually coming out for Viper here. Going to be able to effectively deal with these heavy armored units. But at the same time, he's going to have to deal with those archers on the back line. More units trickling out now for Viper. He's got to be careful and get these guys starting to attack, because at the moment they're just rallied towards the middle of the army from ZertoN. ZertoN now begins to push in. More knights pushing in on the front line. Going to look to clean up Viper's mass as he moves to I've gone blank, Lidakor. You take over.
Well, one of the things to note here is that Viper is missing the attack upgrade from Castle Age, so that makes those archers that are already inefficient against knights even worse against all those knights out there. On the other hand, I feel like Viper is slowly grinding down the numbers of ZertoN here, so you gotta wonder if this is an overextension from the French player or not.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it might be. He was looking in a great position, but now Viper once again continues to hold. This is multiple times he's managed to do it. We've seen throughout a lot of these games today, which Viper has played, he has been pushed to the limits. He really knows the limits of his civilizations. And once again, it is a game where he is getting pushed right up against the ropes here. And just keep in mind, even though it looks like Viper's got a significant score lead at the moment, it is a 2K score lead. Mongol's score lead is bugged, or Mongol's score rather, is bugged at the moment. So that is not an accurate reflection of the true score. Viper sitting on 101 villages, ZertoN sitting on 75. So there is definitely a lead for the Mongol player. But the question is going to be, how much of a lead is that? ZertoN's still sitting on one town center at this point in the game. So
I think
yeah, go on.
I think at this point, like, ZertoN is staying 1 TC, and from what I'm seeing here in the middle, a keep and a monastery makes me feel like ZertoN just wants to drop keeps on the sacred sites and try to turtle this one out, because Viper doesn't have map control right now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a difficult spot for him. Still no map control. Were you able to take a look at the line of sight from Viper's perspective? I want to see exactly what he's got going for himself.
He's got decent vision, but not a whole lot, especially in the northern part of the map.
How about ZertoN?
Just a quick reminder, while we're looking at this one in a bit of a peaceful time, ZertoN has pretty decent vision around the map, I would say. So, as a quick reminder, the winner qualifies into the main event, and he's gonna be one of the 8 players playing for $20,000 prize pool.
It's a lot of money. So yeah, you really want to make sure that that you're doing things right. Speaking of doing things right, ZertoN coming in, doing things right with this raid right now. Going to be showing Viper the way when it comes to raiding, and Viper not even reacting at this point, only now just pulling back his villagers as they look to try and path through, managing to get a couple of them out to safety, but no spears in the area going to be able to help out, and Viper in a bit of trouble because all those pastures around his town center, we can see them. They're going to be sitting there gathering, but Viper's going to be losing his villagers. He's going to have to begin a migration, just like the Mongols would normally do, away from his town center because it is under threat, and everybody evacuates the dance floor. Where is Viper's army?
It's up on the front over here, setting up the mangonels right now. But this was definitely an amazing fight for ZertoN. He also managed to take down the Khan. Viper is down to 99 vills, so ZertoN is back in it in terms of villagers, I would say.
Yes, well, that is one of the things. If your enemy makes more TCs, you can always just do more raiding. And so Viper definitely losing out a bit on the bonus that the Mongols have, or rather bonus. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but they can't make walls. Viper now going to be looking to chase away these knights towards the north as well. Look how fast the units are that chase him. These spears are just so damn quick. They're moving faster than the knights.
Yeah, that's crazy. The knights do have self-healing on the other hand, as ZertoN already has 1 sacred site trickling him gold. Looks like no one is going into Imperial yet. In terms of army, we have 42 for ZertoN, and Viper is at a whopping 68.
Yeah, he's definitely got a decent lead at this point. The lead continues to build now for Viper, sitting at about 2.8.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my lord! Mangonel's getting their deadly shots in.
And then there's the men-at-arms even. Viper mixed in some men-at-arms against the archers of the opponent. And while the men-at-arms will struggle against the knights, they will be an excellent arrow sponge over here. You see that the archers are very slow to kill even a single man-at-arms here.
Yeah, wow. That is impressive stuff. So for anybody wondering, triple mangonel is the magic number you want to get to. You get to 3 mangonels, and that's enough to one-shot any infantry unit, I think, other than a men-at-arms. So they will be able to kill archers, they'll be able to kill spears, able to kill arballetria, and there they go. Look at that, taking out a huge bunch. And oh my lord, another shot. Viper just putting out so much damage on these, and look at all the infantry as it lies just dead. We could see so many mangonel shots just laying in the ground, imprinted with so many bodies near it as well.
Raid coming in here from ZertoN on the north as Viper was trying to neutralize the sacred site. Second sacred site being captured by ZertoN. Viper is going into Imperial, by the way.
Which landmark is he going up with? I'm assuming it is the Great Stupa. I think it's called a Great Stupa.
Yeah, the Great Stupa.
The white Stupa. Yeah, there we go. So no surprises there. That is the only viable landmark, in my opinion. But once again, Viper being raided towards the north, and it becomes really difficult to deal with these raids in the late game, as Viper, we can see, now begins to do trading as well up towards the northern trading post, and going to be securing this sacred site towards the south. Wants to neutralize those, prevent any sacred site victory from happening, which has now been paused for the moment. Keep in mind, when you are... Oh my lord, what was that sound? That was a trebuchet. Oh my god, that thing was scary. Jeez, those things sound great, don't they?
They absolutely do, and now that Viper is in Imperial Age, once he's got elite archers, potentially elite crossbowmen, and elite spearmen, it's gonna be a difficult fight to take for ZertoN. His landmark victory condition will be short-lived, you see. The landmark, the sacred site is neutralized, so that's it. Looks like ZertoN will try to dive in on the mangonels.
Mangonel's getting a beautiful shot in on the back of all those arballetria, just getting taken down, and Viper definitely looking like he's got a significant lead at this point. We see that he's sitting on 200 population at the moment as he reaches the Imperial Age. Gonna have those upgrades coming in very soon. ZertoN, on the other hand, only on 120 population at the moment, so down about 80 pop. And it definitely seems like this is Viper's game to lose. Obviously, ZertoN continues to try and apply pressure to the base of Viper, but sitting on 99 villages very comfortably means he's got plenty of space for infantry, plenty of space for artillery, and plenty of space for his Khan.
And look at this. This is just such an amazing move from Viper. He doesn't really need to neutralize this sacred site right now, yet he's still doing it with one archer. And it's just such a small detail, but it's just so good of a play from Viper. The castle doesn't have boiling oil here, so the infantry can do quite a lot against it.
Yeah, they managed to get inside all of those villages, but look how quickly the infantry burned that down, just taking it to absolute school. And it looks like we've now got a monastery out. Actually, never mind. I thought that was a college of artillery, but it wasn't. That castle's going to be going down. And two siege workshops on the front line. Guild Hall on the back as well, on wood at the moment, but it's not going to be anywhere near stacked up enough. Mangonel's continuing to move out across the map with the trebuchets in tow. Trebuchets now looking pretty decent, and Viper continues to extend that YAM network out. We see him building up another tower. He wants to get that buff all the way out, and take a look how quickly those units melted through that night like a hot knife through butter. That was wild.
Absolutely. Looks like there is still two sacred sites here for ZertoN, but I feel like now his population deficit is starting to show. 117 steady population, and he's just getting pushed back so heavily. The traps will clean up these buildings, and every building that's destroyed, that's 50 food and 50 gold for Viper as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how far ahead Viper is at the moment. I'm suspecting that Viper is now looking to put a nail in the coffin. We see a Springald coming out, and I think the question is, how can he do that? So pushing into the French base is going to be the obvious choice for him, but at the same time, he continues to get raided behind. Doesn't really look like ZertoN's got anywhere near enough resources to even consider going up to the Imperial Age, so he's going to have to do it, fighting a difficult battle for himself. Now men-at-arms, or rather spearmen, going to be looking to get into the battle. More crossbowmen on the back line here, and this is going to be more than enough to clean this up. So Viper definitely doing a great job of repelling that little assault.
ZertoN's got 31 army going for him right now, and the Mongols are through the walls. There is a defensive keep coming in as desperation. But now Viper's got ultimate map control, and he could be the one that takes the sacred sites and forces the hand of the opponent as the Mangudai start galloping in. I feel like this is a flood that ZertoN won't be able to stop.
I've got the same feeling. Those are elite Mangudai as well. And now we see the Knights finally charge in. Arbitratria on the back line, looking to do as much as they can against these elite units. It's going to be tough. Mangudels, you can hear them firing down the south of the map as they begin to move in, rather the trebuchets. And now the Mangudels looking to get some shots off. Let's see how they manage to do. Looks like enemy cavalry running straight for them and realizes how important they are. We see some Springlets down to the south as well, looking to finalize the situation for those trebuchets and taking them out. But Viper still overwhelming his opponent at this point in multiple spots on the map, cleaning up villages towards the north of his base as well. Is there any possible way he can get back into this game at all, Lidakor?
I don't think so. I feel like ZertoN at 95 population, he's back against the wall in Castle Age, and you see Viper feels the blood in the water now. He's grabbing the sacred site. He's going to use his advantage to maximum effect. He's also floating a lot of resources, so even if he loses numbers, he's replenishing them almost instantly.
Yeah, Viper doing a great job of just bringing that back in. Can we go take a look at his infrastructure just quickly? I want to see how much he's got behind this right now. Look at all of those military production buildings. He's got so much stuff just ready to flood out of there. Plenty there. And now neutralizing a sacred site. Let's head back towards the main action. How's Viper doing? Actually, he's doing a lot of damage down here towards the south as well. I suspect that this is going to be... Oh, a good game gets called. Viper goes through to the main event. Congratulations go over his way. ZertoN getting knocked out. Well played, Viper.
Absolutely.
Well played.
I feel like seeing that move over there was just a GG for ZertoN. Just a little touch once again from Viper. Instead of shooting immediately, he moves in between the villagers and the gate. So he pretty much guaranteed himself like 10 villager kills in there. And I feel like ever since Viper reached Imperial, it was just downhills for ZertoN. The army discrepancy is just enormous, and as you said, the Viper, the AoE 2 legend, shows that he's off to a very, very strong start in Age of Empires 4 as well.
Yeah, Viper looking absolutely commanding in those games as well. Wasn't even close. Well, I mean, it got pretty close there at some points, but it's kind of wild to me to think that Viper could have potentially been knocked out so early in the bracket. We did see... as we followed him up, that in his first game, he played quite a tough game against, if I remember correctly, it was a Mongol opponent.